Now, on a day when the World Bank has approved another 1 billion support for India's fight against COVID-19, the World Bank's country director, Junaid Ahmad, is speaking exclusively to us today. Mr. Junaid, thanks very much for joining us this evening. My first question to you, Mr. Ahmad, is that what are the details and the purpose of today's loan of $1 billion from the World Bank to India?
The World Bank is a partner with Government of India in the country's fight against the COVID pandemic. And we've taken a framework, which is government's framework. We engaged government on the health program a month ago, and we invested $1 billion in government's health program. It followed now with a investment in the social protection program of government of another $1 billion. And there's a logic to that. As you know, the health programs against COVID around the world have a very particular aspect to it, which is the social distancing. And with social distancing has come overall lockdown of economies in different forms. That has slowed down the economy. This is very unusual when government intervenes in the economy to slow it down. But in this case, for the health benefits, that needed to happen. But the moment you slow down the economy, a tension appears. And that tension is basically a trade-off between lives and livelihoods. And to bridge that trade-off, Government of India and many governments around the world are investing in social protection to protect the poor and the vulnerable, which is close to 50% of the population of India, and to bridge them from the slowdown to a point where the economy will be revived or growing again. So it's in that context that we have invested in a social protection program of Government of India.
Right. Mr. Ahmad, now, as you rightly said, the $2 billion has already been announced in two different packages from the World Bank for India. Is there another package on the cards for India in the next couple of weeks or months going ahead?
The logic is health intervention, social protection to bridge the poor and vulnerable, and the third is economic stabilization, to protect the economic asset base of the country, all waiting for the revival of the economy. And that economic stabilization program, of course, has been announced by the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister over the last few days. And we're focused in particular on supporting Government of India on the micro and small and medium enterprise. This is a program we're discussing with government, and its basic elements will come out in the coming couple of weeks.
Right. And what does the World Bank think about the economic stimulus package announced by the government? And we've seen, the latest announcement being made today for farmers, and there have been a series of announcements for migrants, for the poorer sections of the community.
I think there are a few points I'd like to make in reference to this program. First, governments around the world are responding to the COVID reaction through different types of monetary and fiscal intervention. So you have in the United States intervention at 10% plus GDP, Japan 19% GDP, Europe on average 5% GDP. So very much from that perspective, Government of India has stepped forward and has moved its monetary and fiscal policy to support the economy and support the poor and the vulnerable. So that's the first point. Second point is that if Government of India does not intervene now, it's going to have to intervene in a deeper way later on. So sequencing this with interventions today makes it easier to do interventions in the future. Third is the sequencing itself. I think rather than coming in one go in a big way, it's doing it and building it over time, because it keeps in reserve resources that may be needed later. It's a very uncertain world. Things are changing, and you don't quite know where you need to put the resource. So the sequencing to enable Government of India to put more money in the future becomes very important. And I think the most important is, where is that money going? It's going to these three packages on health, social protection, and economic stabilization. And I think that's a very, very important signaling that Government of India is trying to move into a space where it addresses the COVID crisis, but prepares the economy for a revival.
All right, Junaid Ahmad, thanks very much indeed for joining us, the country director for the World Bank, speaking exclusively to WION. Thanks for that.